Everyone, today's talk is about the power of privacy, specifically the 7 secrets you must keep to yourself to protect your inner peace, maintain dignity, and navigate life with grace and intelligence. In a world that often encourages oversharing, discretion becomes your personal armor. Let's begin. In a society that thrives on visibility and constant communication, the art of discretion is becoming increasingly rare. Yet, for those seeking to elevate their self-worth, protect their emotional well-being, and establish a quietly powerful presence, discretion is not only essential, it is transformative. The foundation of self-preservation lies in the ability to be selective about what we share and with whom. It's not about living in secrecy, but about safeguarding the most meaningful parts of ourselves from unnecessary exposure. Discretion, in this sense, is not silence born of fear or avoidance. It is a conscious, elegant choice to protect your mental and emotional boundaries. When you share too freely your plans, emotions, or personal experiences, you expose yourself to unsolicited opinions, misinterpretation, and sometimes even sabotage. The more visible your private life becomes, the more vulnerable it is to external influence. Preserving your inner world, then, becomes a form of strength and a key tool for emotional resilience. There is an unspoken power in privacy. When you withhold certain details about your life, not to manipulate but to preserve, you retain control over your personal narrative. You are not inviting commentary, judgment, or interference. You are allowing yourself the freedom to grow, change, and evolve without the pressure of public scrutiny. This kind of self-containment nurtures self-respect. You are saying, in effect, my life matters enough to be protected. That is a powerful statement of self-worth. For example, when someone speaks openly about their dreams or ambitions, especially in their early stages, they run the risk of diluting the energy of that vision. Others may dismiss it, offer discouragement, or project their own limitations onto the idea. Even well-meaning friends and family can unintentionally cast doubt that lingers in the mind. By keeping such intentions private, at least until they have a strong foundation, you shield them from that kind of interference. This isn't about being secretive for the sake of it. It's about creating an environment where your dreams can be nurtured in peace until they are ready to be shared confidently. Additionally, discretion allows you to avoid the emotional burnout that can come from oversharing. When we habitually reveal our struggles or vulnerabilities to others without clear boundaries, we open ourselves to misunderstanding and sometimes even emotional exhaustion. Not every emotion needs an audience. Not every problem requires outside input. By exercising discernment in what we choose to disclose, we grant ourselves the space to process privately at our own pace, without the weight of others' opinions or the pressure to appear okay before we are ready. This same principle applies to relationships. Whether romantic, familial, or platonic, the most stable relationships are often the ones not constantly displayed or discussed in detail. When you keep intimate moments, conflicts, or evolving dynamics private, you honor the sanctity of the bond. You're not performing your connection for external validation, but cultivating it for mutual growth. You also avoid the trap of inviting others into dynamics they are not equipped to understand, let alone judge fairly. Protecting your relationships through discretion is a mark of maturity and emotional intelligence. The digital age has made it particularly easy to forget the value of personal privacy. Social media encourages immediate sharing, public updates, and visible milestones. But real power comes from being able to say no to that pressure, to sit with your thoughts, celebrate your wins quietly, and navigate your challenges without needing an audience. This choice not only builds internal resilience, but also elevates how others perceive you. People naturally respect and are drawn to those who carry themselves with subtlety and confidence, those who don't feel the need to announce everything but move with calm, quiet assurance. In essence, self-preservation through discretion is an elegant form of self-care. It allows you to maintain emotional clarity, avoid unnecessary drama, and grow in private. It teaches you to trust yourself rather than leaning too heavily on others' validation or input. And most importantly, it helps you protect your energy, arguably your most valuable resource. The less scattered your energy is by external noise, the more powerful and focused you become by learning to withhold selectively, not from fear, but from intention. You step into a more empowered version of yourself. You begin to understand that your thoughts, your plans, your emotions, and your values are not commodities to be traded for attention. They are treasures to be protected and only shared with those who have truly earned the privilege. In the journey of emotional maturity and self-awareness, one of the most underestimated yet powerful traits is the ability to practice selective vulnerability. Vulnerability, when expressed intentionally, can create deep connections, foster trust, and build authentic relationships. However, when vulnerability is offered indiscriminately, it can lead to misinterpretation, emotional exposure, or even manipulation. The key lies in knowing when, how, and with whom to be vulnerable. Selective vulnerability is not about being closed off or emotionally unavailable. It is about having discernment. It means understanding that while your experiences and emotions are valid, not everyone is equipped to receive or honor them. There is a significant difference between being open and being exposed. When you reveal your inner world to someone, you are placing a piece of yourself in their hands. That piece deserves to be handled with care and respect. Too often, people feel compelled to share deeply personal stories in the name of transparency or connection, believing that openness is a shortcut to closeness. While this can sometimes create a sense of shared intimacy, it can just as easily lead to discomfort or judgment if the other person lacks the emotional maturity to understand what you're expressing. Selective vulnerability, then, becomes an emotional filter, a way of protecting yourself while still allowing genuine connection to occur. One of the most important lessons in life is that not every relationship is designed to hold the weight of your full emotional truth. Friends, acquaintances, colleagues, even family members, they all have different capacities for empathy, confidentiality, and support. To share something deeply personal with someone who is not ready or willing to receive it is to risk misunderstanding and disappointment. Emotional safety should never be assumed. It should be earned over time through mutual trust and consistent behavior. The ability to assess emotional safety is at the heart of selective vulnerability. Does this person listen with empathy? Do they respect your privacy? Have they demonstrated emotional intelligence and maturity? Do they support your growth, or do they center themselves in your experiences? These are essential questions to ask before choosing to open up. Vulnerability is most powerful when it is intentional, when it is shared in the right context with the right people for the right reasons. Furthermore, there is a danger in using vulnerability as a means of self-validation. Some individuals share too much, too soon, because they are seeking affirmation or connection from others to soothe their own insecurities. This can create a pattern of emotional overexposure where one's self-worth becomes entangled with others' reactions. In contrast, selective vulnerability begins with self-validation. It says, I acknowledge my emotions and experiences as real and valuable, and I don't need to display them to everyone to prove they matter. There is a profound sense of inner power in keeping certain emotions private, not hidden out of shame, but protected out of self-respect. When you allow yourself to feel deeply but choose not to share those feelings indiscriminately, you retain a sense of control and composure. You create space to process your experiences internally, to find meaning on your own terms, and to emerge with clarity and strength. This is not suppression, it is self-possession. In professional environments especially, selective vulnerability is a mark of leadership and emotional intelligence. While it's important to be human and relatable, over-disclosing personal struggles or insecurities can undermine your credibility or blur boundaries. A thoughtful, measured approach to sharing emotion communicates authenticity without compromising professionalism. It shows that you are in touch with your feelings, but not ruled by them. It demonstrates balance. Even in personal relationships, selective vulnerability enhances respect. When you share thoughtfully, you communicate that your emotional world is something to be invited into, not something to be assumed access to. You teach others how to treat you by showing them that your emotions are valuable and deserve to be handled with care. This raises the standard for connection and encourages others to meet you at a deeper, more respectful level. Another vital aspect of selective vulnerability is timing. Just because you feel something deeply in the moment doesn't mean it must be shared immediately. Sometimes, giving yourself time to process privately leads to greater understanding and clarity. It allows you to articulate your feelings with more wisdom and intention, rather than reacting impulsively or emotionally. This not only protects your peace but enhances the quality of your communication. Selective vulnerability also invites us to become better listeners. When you're not constantly centered in your own emotional expression, you can hold space for others more genuinely. You become less reactive, more observant, and more attuned to nuance. This deepens your capacity for empathy, which in turn strengthens your most important relationships. Selective vulnerability is about emotional boundaries. It empowers you to define the terms of your emotional availability and to curate the spaces where you feel safe to be fully seen. It respects your complexity and your right to privacy. It values your emotional energy as a resource, not one to be given freely to anyone who asks, but one to be shared mindfully with those who truly deserve it. In a culture that often glorifies oversharing, it is an act of strength and self-awareness to choose discernment. By practicing selective vulnerability, you not only protect your emotional well-being, you elevate your relationships, your presence, and your peace. You show the world that you are both open and grounded, soft yet strong, available yet whole on your own. That is the true art of inner elegance. There is a subtle but undeniable strength in choosing silence. In a world that often equates power with noise, visibility, and constant communication, the idea that silence itself can be a strategy may seem counterintuitive. But for those who understand the psychology of presence and influence, silence is not weakness. It is wisdom in its most distilled form. It allows for control, clarity, and calm authority. To be silent by choice is to take ownership of your energy, your narrative, and your impact. Many people rush to fill silence because they fear being misunderstood or overlooked. There is a compulsion to explain, to justify, to assert opinions, and to share thoughts without pause. But often, the loudest voices are not the most respected, merely the most reactive. True influence rarely comes from impulsive noise. It is earned through observation, restraint, and a thoughtful command of timing. Those who learn to be silent at the right moments gain the upper hand in both personal and professional situations. Silence allows you to read a room. When you speak less, you see more. You become attuned to dynamics, to what is said between the lines, and to how people behave when they're not performing for your attention. Silence gives you the space to listen deeply, not just to words, but to tone, emotion, and intent. This kind of awareness is impossible when you are too focused on being heard. In fact, it is in the quiet moments that the most valuable information reveals itself, information that can guide your decisions and elevate your interactions. Furthermore, silence is a powerful tool for maintaining emotional composure. When emotions run high, whether anger, frustration, or hurt, the immediate urge is often to react verbally, but silence in these moments offers a pause, a deliberate space between stimulus and response. It gives you a chance to gather yourself, to choose your next step with intention rather than impulse. This control is not just dignified, it is powerful. It communicates that your emotions do not rule you, and that you do not seek validation through emotional outbursts. In personal relationships, the strategic use of silence can also strengthen boundaries. You are not obligated to respond to every question, comment, or criticism. Choosing silence in moments where engagement would drain you or pull you into unnecessary conflict is not avoidance, it is protection. It says, I do not need to defend or explain myself to be secure in who I am. That message, conveyed without a single word, speaks louder than any argument could. Power in silence also extends to ambition and personal development. When you are building something meaningful, be it a business, a creative project, or a personal transformation, broadcasting every step can weaken the momentum. Talking too much about your plans before they're concrete can attract doubt, jealousy, or distractions. But when you move quietly, you preserve your focus. You stay connected to your why without letting external voices cloud your vision. In silence, your efforts are allowed to ripen. And when the results are finally revealed, they carry more weight because they arrive with presence, not preamble. Moreover, silence creates mystery, and mystery commands attention. When people cannot immediately read your thoughts or intentions, they become more curious, more attentive. Silence draws others in. It forces them to observe you more carefully, to question what you're thinking or planning. In contrast, constant chatter often leads to overexposure. When people know everything about you, there's little left to engage with. But when you hold something back, you create a sense of depth and complexity that leaves a lasting impression. Practicing the power of silence does not mean disengaging from communication altogether. Rather, it means mastering the art of when and how to speak. It means using silence as a conscious tool to listen, to observe, to reflect, and to assert control over your presence. It means knowing that sometimes the most intelligent thing you can do is simply say nothing at all. In truth, silence is one of the last remaining luxuries in a world saturated with noise. It allows for internal growth, sharper intuition, and deeper connections. It gives you the time and space to process your thoughts thoroughly, so that when you do speak, your words carry intention and clarity. There is power in choosing silence not because you have nothing to say, but because you know that what you say, and when you say it, matters. And that kind of self-restraint is not weakness, it is refinement, it is strategy, and above all, it is a mark of true personal power. In closing, mastering the art of what to keep to yourself is not about secrecy, it is about self-respect. The ability to protect your inner world is one of the most powerful forms of personal discipline. By practicing discretion, you create emotional boundaries that preserve your peace. Through selective vulnerability, you choose connection without compromising your self-worth. And by embracing silence as a strategy, you demonstrate wisdom, presence, and control. These are not tactics of avoidance, but tools of refinement. They allow you to move through the world with grace, protect what is sacred, and align your energy with intention rather than impulse. Not everything needs to be said, shared, or explained. In fact, some of the most successful, respected, and self-assured individuals are those who have learned that their power lies in what they choose to withhold. So, as you continue your personal growth, ask yourself, what am I sharing? Why am I sharing it? And who truly deserves access to my thoughts, plans, and emotions? When you answer those questions with discernment, you protect not only your privacy, but your power. Thank you.